AJ Smith-Shawver and Reynaldo López are both due back soon, and based on how everyone's pitching right now, we might have too many starting pitcher options. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today, a production of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. I want to talk about Matt Olson and his power surge that he's had recently and how that might possibly change the ceiling of this Braves team. I want to talk about shortstop, about Jimmy Baseball, Ha-Seong Kim. Neither one of them is hitting right now and what you do there. But before we do that, AJ Smith-Shawver made another rehab start last night in Gwinnett. Technically not a rehab start. He's been returned from rehab, but I'm thinking of it as more of the rehab starts. Reynaldo López threw a bullpen session yesterday. He's due back pretty soon as well. And it almost feels like the Braves might have too many starting pitcher options, and we've got to figure out what to do. Because the current rotation, outside of Elder's one umpire influence mistake there, Elder's, the entire rotation's pitching pretty well right now. And Walt Weiss acknowledged this last night, saying, quote, "In a minute here, we could have some pretty good options, more options." AJ Smith-Shawver is eligible to return on Friday. He would line up for a start on Monday in Minnesota versus the Twins. Right? Even if he's ready to return and you're ready to bring him back on Friday, it's likely that they would wait until Monday, right? We would find out that he flew with the team on Sunday after the finale, but he wouldn't actually be activated until Sunday or Monday. It's typically how Atlanta does that, right? Which makes sense. There's no point in bringing him back on Friday and getting rid of a guy if he's going to sit around for a couple days before he actually pitches. Reynaldo López is eligible to come back on Saturday. He said that no, he would not be returning this weekend, but he's going to be coming back soon. And so the question becomes, like, where do you slot everybody in? And I think AJ Smith-Shawver pitched well enough for Gwinnett last night that he would be in the rotation. Okay. 5 1/3 innings. 1 hit, no runs, and no walks. And that's the big thing for me, because I think what we've seen from AJ Smith-Shawver in his return from his elbow surgery is a little bit of struggle at times with locations and command and control. And not a ton of hits, but plenty of walks. And so doing what he did last night, he strikes out 7 in 5 1/3. He was a little inefficient early. He had a 26-pitch first inning, a 20-pitch second inning, and he got into a little bit of trouble trying to put some guys away. And then when he locked into a groove, it was smooth sailing from there. His pitch count goes down in every single inning. Granted, he was pulled in the 6th after 1 out, but it was like 20 pitches in the 2nd, 15 in the 3rd, 14 in the 4th, 13 in the 5th. He was getting more efficient as the outing went on. Finishes with the 7 strikeouts. He had 16 whiffs. And the big thing for me was he was able to throw everything pretty consistently in the zone for strikes. Outside of what StatCast is labeling as the slider. Remember, this is really a cutter. He was in the zone more than 50% with everything. And it very clearly looks like he took a little bit off. This season, he's been averaging 97 on his fastball. He averaged 95.9 last night. So, looks like he took a little bit off of everything, but got much better control because of it. He gets whiffs on everything. He was getting chase on everything. He ended up with a 68% strike percentage. He got ahead of 12 of the 17 batters with first pitch strikes. Just being able to do he even got a whiff on the sinker. And not only did he only allow 1 hit, he only allowed one hard hit ball in the 10 balls put into play against him. The average exit velocity off of AJ Smith-Shawver was 84.8 miles an hour. Since the trade deadline, Brave Today sponsor FanDuel has put Atlanta behind Milwaukee in the World Series odds. It's like Dodgers, Yankees, which I don't think they should be that high unless you're just banking on Judge coming back and being dominant. Although, those 3 pitchers we saw over the weekend will help. Brewers at plus 950, Braves at plus 1100. And if we see tonight, if we see Tyler Mahle have another dominant start like he did last Friday, if we see AJ Smith-Shawver come back and be able to show 90% of this form that he showed in Gwinnett last night, I do think those odds are those numbers, there's going to be less value there. Because the criticism that you have about Atlanta versus every team that they're in that group with right now. Dodgers are clearly the favorites, but Yankees, Brewers, Cubs even, because they went out and got multiple starters. The criticism everybody has is Atlanta's playoff rotation is not the same as theirs. And I think if Mahle comes out and looks good, if Smith-Shawver does what he did last night, all of a sudden that weakness has been mitigated somewhat. I'm not saying that your rotation can equal New York's or Milwaukee's or anything, but that weakness is not as egregious of a weakness. And so we've got to figure out what to do with this rotation, right? We've got to figure out where to put all of these guys and what to do with them. And we know that Chris Sale's going to be in there, right? We know that. We know that Tyler Mahle's going to be in there. His ERA is just over 3 in his last 8 starts. He has gone almost 6 innings a start in that stretch. He had 6 scoreless with 9 strikeouts last Friday. So we know Sale's in there. We know Mahle's in there. Outside of Monday night for Bryce Elder, I do think we know that he's going to be in there. If you go back, and Mark Bowman had a great stat, which I've seen a lot of versions of this, but because I'm specifically pulling this one from him, I'm going to give him credit for it. If you go back to that run that he had starting in like August of last year, from then, his last 30 starts, his ERA at 3.73 is a top 20 mark in baseball across his past 30 starts. He has 14 starts of 6 innings or longer. And when he's on, he can be really good. He can give you length. He can give you quality starts. He has one of the better quality start rates in baseball. I still don't know if you use him as in that role in the postseason, but in the regular season, he's going to be in that group. He's going to be in that group of starters. So you've got Sale, you've got Elder, you've got Mahle. And I find it tough to think about taking Martin Perez out of that group. Martin Perez has a 1.08 ERA in his last 5 outings. He has an 18-inning scoreless streak right now. It is the 3rd longest active streak in baseball. At the end of the day, when we get to October, I still think the best use of Martin Perez is in the role that Aaron Bummer and then Danny Young was supposed to have, right? A lefty ground ball specialist out of the bullpen, a guy who can get lefties out. He can give you length if you need it. I think that's probably his best role in October. But before you get to October, the fact that he's been able to go from a 5 and dive since before the injured list stint to a pretty reliable 6-inning guy since is incredibly valuable. So that's 4 starters right there. You got to add, if you add AJ Smith-Shawver to that, I do think AJ Smith-Shawver needs to be in the rotation when he comes back. That's 5. You've got to figure out what to do with Grant Holmes. You've got to figure out what to do with Reynaldo López. And from friend of the show, Jesus Cano, the Athletic, Walt Weiss said yesterday they view Reynaldo López as a starter still. But depending on the team's needs, he would be an option out of the bullpen. And I do think the first guy to get bumped out of the rotation is probably Grant Holmes, which is tough because we started talking about putting him in the bullpen, and he does this every time. He goes out and he has a 2.45 ERA in his last 7 starts, and goes at least 5 innings in 6 of those 7. Every time he's in danger of losing a job, it feels like he steps up a little bit and does something there to try and show that, no, I need to be the guy here. I need to be in the rotation. I still think the highest and best use of Grant Holmes is probably as that utility pitcher, that swing man, that role he had in his first season that was so effective, right? That's the most WAR he's put up in a season, was when he was doing that utility pitcher role. So I still think that's what they end up doing here. I think that's probably the best thing to do here. And then when it's time to add Reynaldo, then you have another conversation. Does he go to the pen? Do you try to run 6 starters for a little bit, even though you have off days? What do you do? Makes it tough, right? And at the same time, AJ possibly coming back for Monday, Reynaldo being a couple days later, maybe this takes care of itself, right? Maybe somebody goes on the IL for a couple days or needs to get skipped or whatever, and this decision's made for you. But it's a good problem to have, right? In just a minute, let's talk about shortstop, because I don't know if everybody maybe realizes how tough the position is to find production right now. And we're having the decisions probably here. Do we need to make some trade-offs, or do you just do whatever because it doesn't matter? The playoffs are going to look different. We'll talk about that next right here on Braves Today. Second segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. Let's talk about shortstop, because I love the story of Jimmy Baseball. I'm the one that reached out to CJ and was like, hey, we're calling him Jimmy Baseball. You should probably find a way to use that in the broadcast. And then it turns out that actually he's been called that for a while and they just didn't know about it. He's been called that since he was a kid, and so it became a whole thing. Listen, love the story of Jimmy Baseball. That being said, the production, the offensive production, has not been there. Since the start of July, Jimmy's hitting 188. Oh, I'm sorry. That's his OPS since the start of July. My bad. He's hitting 077 with a 188 OPS. Now, I know that's 26 at-bats. He's got 2 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI. He was also caught stealing in that stretch. Since the All-Star break, he's hitting 172 with a 477 OPS. And so you're in a situation right now where Jim Jarvis isn't hitting, but other than the occasional dumb slip-up, he's defending pretty well. You got rid of Jorge Mateo to bring back Ha-Seong Kim. And again, my argument was at the deadline, you should have just offered him and the money to go get another piece, right? Go grab a bullpen arm or something and just be like, hey, we'll give you Ha-Seong Kim for the rest of the season. We'll pay for him to be there with you, if that was an option. Again, teams have to agree to that. But Ha-Seong Kim has barely gotten playing time since he's come back. He made a start versus a left-hander last Friday. If they're going to stick with this strict platoon situation, you would expect tonight a lefty on the mound in Zach Thornton. You would expect Kim to be in the lineup again tonight. Get a start there. He was a pinch runner, scored in extras for Matt Olson the other day. But he's not really done much, although, again, he's not really had an opportunity to do much since he came back. And my feelings on this are a little bit nuanced, I think, right? I'm not going to criticize him for the lack of offensive production since Ha-Seong Kim got back. He's literally 0 for 2. He's had 2 plate appearances because they pinch hit for him late in that game. And so you're in a situation where figuring out what matters is important. Do you care about the defense? Because I think the Braves feel, this is speculation, I think the Braves feel that Jarvis is a better defender than Kim. Kim has won a utility Gold Glove back in 2023, but because of the shoulder injury, then the hand issue that we saw, we haven't seen the defense to the same level that he showed back in 2023. And even then, his defense was more highly regarded at other positions than it was at shortstop. And when Ha-Seong Kim is at his best, I think we've seen he's a guy that can run a good on base. 2023, long time ago, I know. But as an example of what the ceiling of Ha-Seong Kim can be, 351 on base, OPS in the mid-sevens. He stole 38 bags, played all around the diamond, got down-ballot MVP votes. He was the 14th place finisher for MVP after putting up like a 5-WAR season, if you do it via Baseball Reference, and a 4-WAR season if you do it via Fangraphs. And so I think the offensive ceiling on Kim is higher than the offensive ceiling on Jim Jarvis. The defensive ceiling for Jarvis, however, is better than Kim's. Even when Kim was at his best, he was merely fine to slightly above average at shortstop. He wasn't a plus defender at short. Again, his utility gold glove was a lot of second base, some short, some third, whatever. So I get the feeling what the Braves are going to do is that they're going to continue with Jim Jarvis as the strong side of the platoon. He'll play shortstop against right-handers. And then when you face a lefty, Ha-Seong Kim will get the rare start. And again, I expect it tonight because you have a lefty and Zach Thornton on the mound. And if you want more info about that matchup, we'll have a scouting report this afternoon where we break down what Thornton does on the mound, the lineups for both teams, all that good stuff, right? So just stay tuned. It's both a live stream on YouTube and it's an audio podcast and it's a written article at bravestoday.com. So a lot of different ways to consume the scouting report every day before every game. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily know if it matters which one figures out the thing they're struggling with or not. Like which one figures out the bat. Because in the postseason, especially with the way Mike Yastrzemski has been hitting recently, in the postseason, it really feels like your plan is just going to be have Mauricio Dubón at shortstop every day. If you look at the outfield, Mike Yastrzemski in the month of August is hitting 263 with a 950 OPS. In July, he was only hitting 240, but the OPS was still in the 8s. You can go to the month of May when he was hot. He was hitting 316 with an OPS of 950. You can see when Mike Yastrzemski is on what it looks like. So at the end of the day, it might not matter which shortstop is hitting less bad when you get to October, because as long as Yastrzemski is doing okay in the outfield, your ideal outfield configuration is probably going to be Harrison center, Acuna in right, and either Lane Thomas, who we should see again tonight as well, given the facing a lefty, Lane Thomas or Mike Yastrzemski in left, with Mauricio Dubón at shortstop. And I think the other thing that helps that happen is the fact that Austin Riley has been better since the All-Star break. His overall numbers are still poor. It's a 220 batting average. It's a 362 slug on the season. But when you look at the post, like the second half numbers, he's a lot closer to the Austin Riley we remember. Since the All-Star break, Austin Riley's hitting 271 with an 817 OPS. He's got 5 home runs in 24 games as compared to 9 homers in 95 games before the break. He's slugging almost 500. His on base is 323. He's been much better since the All-Star break. And the fact that Riley, and he still has his moments. He still has he gets down in a quick 1-2 or 2-2 count and they just spam sliders down in the way until he's out. He still has those moments. But the fact that he's been able to rebound as he got farther away from that core muscle surgery, just like Heidi Watney told us here on the show, the fact that he's been able to rebound like that gives you the flexibility to just put Dubón at shortstop in the postseason and not worry about it. And then if you lose somebody during a game, then you have the ability to grab Duke to throw a Jarvis in for defense at shortstop and move Dubón to cover that position. I do also think if something happens and you need an extra outfielder, like Lane Thomas can play every day. He's miscast as an everyday outfielder. He was hitting .230 at the trade deadline because they had him playing, the Royals had him playing every day against both lefties and righties. They also had him in center field. We've seen some guys that are good offensive players move to center and struggled. Adam Duvall was a great example of this, I think. He wasn't that good of a defensive center fielder, and because of the unique demands and how big he was, and I think the fact that he was also a type 1 diabetic, he really struggled offensively when he was being asked to run that much in center field. But he still, against right-handers, he has a 650 OPS. It's a low batting average, right? He's not completely unplayable. It's not like a Mike Yastrzemski situation where, Mike Yastrzemski against left-handed pitching is practically unplayable. He has his OPS, he's barely faced him. He has 35 plate appearances all year, and his OPS is barely over 500. So you've got options. And at the end of the day, I would love to get one of these shortstops to work out. But what I like here is you have options, right? If somebody's not hitting, you've got Dubón you can plug in there. If somebody is hitting, you can then use Dubón somewhere else, and you can maybe in the postseason, if they don't think that Sean Murphy behind the plate and Baldwin at DH is the right way to go, right? If they think that Sean Murphy hasn't had enough time to get hot, which you got to play him for getting him hot. If Dubón is not needed at shortstop, you can put Ronald at DH sometimes in the postseason and put Dubón in right, you put Dubón in left and Yastrzemski in right to get better defense, right? There's multiple options here. But if Kim or Jarvis is hitting, that's what you have to do. So we'll see what happens here and how this all shakes out. In just a minute, let's talk about Matt Olson, because I don't necessarily think he gets the appreciation that he deserves, and he hit a pretty meaningful mark last night. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. Matt Olson hit a home run last night to give him 35 on the year. And he is now tied for the league lead in home runs. And I think if you had asked me going into the season, who on this roster would be competing for the league lead in home runs, I know Matt Olson hit 54, but I still would have said probably Ronald Acuna Jr. And the fact that Matt Olson has 35, and so does Yordan Alvarez, and so does Kyle Schwarber, and so does Junior Caminero, that tells me that the ceiling of this team is a little bit better than maybe we realized. Now, I still think that one of the downsides here for Matt Olson, as compared to those guys without having sat there and dug into the numbers, is it feels like he is a little streakier with the homer production, right? That he'll go on a binge and he'll hit a ton, and then he'll not cool off a little bit, but the homers come and go a little bit. Month of June, he hit 4. He hit 9 in July. He's already hit 6 in just 10 games in August. And he wasn't hitting poorly in June. He had a 315 average and an 855 OPS. He's just on a tear right now, just like he was on a tear in April and March and had 9 homers and a 997 OPS then. But being able to do a couple things with Matt Olson, I think makes this team better, and I just want to take a moment to appreciate what Matt Olson is doing. Because one, it bears pointing out again, he's not missed a single game since he's been in Atlanta. He's come out of a couple games early, never because of injury, just simply because it was a blowout. We wanted to give him a break. But the last time he missed a start was 2021 while he was with Oakland. He is, yes, tied for the league lead in home runs. He also has the National League lead in total bases with 258. And that is because he is the MLB leader right now in doubles with 29. Meaning he has 4 more extra base hits than anybody else in baseball. Yordan Alvarez is second with 60, followed by Pete Crow Armstrong at 57. Yes, Matt Olson is getting a lot of hits. He's getting a lot of home runs. He's getting a lot of doubles, too. He's just stacking. That's why his total bases are so high. And it's not the first time that he's led in doubles. Last year, he led the National League in doubles with 41. For a long time, the common answer to most underrated superstar in baseball was Jose Ramirez of the Guardians. Because I don't think a lot of people realized that Jose Ramirez was a 40-40 caliber guy. 2024, he had 39 home runs and 41 stolen bases. And oh yeah, he's 5'8", 190. Last year, 30 home runs, 44 stolen bases, and what was a down year for him, he was still a third-place MVP finisher and an All-Star and a Silver Slugger. But I think at this point, 5 Silver Sluggers, 8, I can't count, 7 All-Star appearances, and a status of probably the best player in this generation to not win an MVP but always be up there. He's got 3 different MVP 3-place finishes. He's got an MVP 2, he's got an MVP 4, and then he's got a 5, a 6, and a 10. Oh, and a 17. I wasn't counting the 17 because that's absurd. But I'm at the point now where I think Jose Ramirez is properly appreciated. And I think Matt Olson is probably not. Because when you look at Matt Olson, there's the offensive production. And again, it's well-rounded. It's not just home runs, right? It's doubles. He's not fast, but he's not a terrible base runner. He's pretty good at taking the extra base, doing all of that kind of stuff. Defensively, he won a Gold Glove last year. He's on pace to win another one this year. And I wrote the article last year because at the time he was dominant. There might not be any first baseman better at that pop-up into foul territory down the right field line and going to get that ball as a first baseman than Matt Olson. The technique is amazing. I broke down the technique in the article too. Just knowing, being able to track the ball, being able to make a catch right by the wall and not run into the wall because of the way that he approaches the ball. Just fantastic. He's so good. I don't think we know we call him a Gold Glove first baseman. I don't think we realize how good he is, though. There was a point last year, and again, I haven't updated since that article. There was a point last year where he was on track to set a single season defensive run saved record at first base. He legitimately may be one of the greatest defensive first basemen in a long time. And he plays every day. It is so incredibly easy as a manager to know that you are building your lineup around X number of guys who are in there every day. And the Braves of previous seasons have been a team where a lot of guys did that. I want to say it was the 2023 Atlanta Braves where he played 162, Ronald played 159, Riley played 159. They were just, so many guys were penciled in every single day. Ozzie played the 148 or 150 games. And before that, like I think in 22, it was Olson and Swanson in every single game. And Riley was at another 159. And this year, if I remember correctly, the only player on the team who has played in every game this year is Matt Olson. Ozzie Albies missed a game. Finally, it was just a load management thing for him. He still got into the game, so he still has the same number of played games as Olson with 120, even though he didn't start. Riley's at 119. Dubón and Harris are at 114 each, although Harris had to do DH for a while. But like everybody else is getting hurt and missing time. Matt Olson's there every day. And I don't know. I think it's too early to know and be convinced whether or not he's on track to end up making the Hall of Fame. Obviously, there's a lot of assumptions left. a lot of time that he has to still spend. He's only 32 years old. He signed in Atlanta through 2029, which is his age 35 season, with a team option for 2030. But I think that he's on track. And depending on how you look at overall Hall of Fame numbers and how they're accumulated, it's either peak or longevity. And ideally, you need both. I don't know if Olson has the peak. And shout out to Baseball Reference, they give you all this stuff. Matt Olson's 7-year peak WAR is 37. The average Hall of Fame first baseman, their 7-year peak is 42.1. So as far as the highs being high in the Baseball Reference WAR calculation, he's not necessarily there yet, right? He hasn't had the peak that your average Hall of Fame first baseman has. But as far as the reliability, the average Hall of Fame first baseman put up 4.8 WAR per 162 games. Matt Olson in his career is at 5.3. So he's been half a WAR better per season or per 162 games than the average Hall of Fame first baseman. This is still really early, obviously. He only has, again, Baseball Reference calculations, he only has 44 career WAR. The average Hall of Fame first baseman has 65. And if his career were to end after this season, he's not in. But provided that the aging curve works in his favor in the next couple seasons, when you look at a guy that has the impressive consistency that he's had, combined with the intangible stuff, right? The never missing a game, the positive reputation around the league and with the media who vote on these things. You look at the defense. It feels like we are watching a Hall of Fame first baseman in his prime right now. And I don't think enough people kind of talk about that, about how lucky we are. I'll say lucky, how lucky we are to get to watch Matt Olson do what he does every day. And we got to stop taking it for granted. It is awesome. And I am incredibly, there, as much, and I hate to bring up old stuff here, as much as it hurt to lose Freddie Freeman, there was no other possible outcome that could have worked out as well as this did. And I'm glad we have Matt Olson. That'll do it for Braves Today for Wednesday, August 12th. A reminder, come back this afternoon for the scouting report to hear all about the lineup we go with against Zach Thornton, what he does on the mound, the bullpen status of both teams, all that good stuff. Please like the video. Please subscribe both here and at bravestoday.com. A lot of great stuff over there. Taylor dropped a great piece this morning giving some of the under-recognized guys in Atlanta's minor league system. Not a lot of them were not on the prospect list that we came out with, but they deserve some flowers. Taylor did a great job writing that story up. Published today on bravestoday.com. A lot of other fun stuff. I may even have something coming tomorrow afternoon as a bonus newsletter about some walk-up songs. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.